Mm.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our next painting collection webinar. We start the next collection with this webinar. Today is Friday, August 12th. Apologies for the slight delay. We obviously had technical difficulties as usual. Not as usual, but it seems like it's sometimes it's not working. But anyhow, welcome. Thank you. What an exciting group of amazing painters that are joining us live. Thanks to each and every one of you for joining us. Thank you, Jen, for being on the other side.
Heck yeah, I'm happy to be here. Hi, everyone.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. And yeah, so we're going to start. I picked one image. We posted a few images on the folder. Would be happy to, maybe Jen, you can post the folder link on the chat for everyone if you want to pick another image, but we found tons of images online of French fries, and we did a couple of searches. We searched by tag, by hashtag, I'm sorry. So some of the images were a little bit much more direct or unpolished, and those were wonderful. So we went on Instagram and we searched French fries with the hashtag. And also we went on Pinterest and we saw different kinds of like French fries. It's amazing how the search engine of Pinterest brings you different things, sometimes, most of the time, much more interesting images. And then, whatever search engine that you use. So there are plenty. But what I did, I used the Amy Sedaris because I feel, that was like really interesting and serendipitous, and also recognizable now. So you're welcome. Anyone's welcome to use this image, just because sometimes images become sort of like part of everyone's visual library, I guess. And I think this is one of those moments or images. So welcome to use this image. But essentially, a couple of changes. I decided, just because I used the board last time, I just decided I'm just gonna move to this 9x12, at least for a few, I don't know when, but I'm just going a little bit smaller. I like the format, I like the size. I've seen paintings this size or smaller, even 8x10. That I find like really interesting. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I think that's it, right? Let me just kind of like, okay, so here we go. And so I had a little bit of, I didn't have much time, Jen, but Wikipedia has an article about the origin of French fries. If you want to sort of like browse really quickly, because
Totally.
there's a controversy already. The Belgian people think that they were the first ones to do this, not the French. So there's a little bit of a dispute about who did the first French fry. And it's an interesting article, actually. So I'm gonna do, my format is rectangular. I'm gonna use a horizontal orientation. I cropped the image, so I made the plate even bigger, but I just like this composition. We have several examples of paintings that can give you maybe, or provide inspiration for different points of view and distances, from really tiny focal point to like really up close. And so decide at the very beginning how you want to arrange the focal point on your format, because that's really crucial. So I did my 8.5x11 printout, and it's a little bit smaller than the format, but I position it in a way that allows me to have a very similar horizontal alignment. I find we have different ways of approaching painting a subject that's recognizable and it's based on observation. One of them is painting from life. in which we don't have any frame for whatever subject we want to paint. Painting from live, it's a little bit more challenging because doing the translation from live to a format requires a little bit of planning and a few trials. So playing with the idea of position and scale, it's a little bit more challenging. The second approach that we do when we paint something recognizable by observation is when we use a screen or something that has a different size. So either our smartphones or tablets or laptops, there's a little bit less of a difficulty to do the translation just because the image is already pre-framed. But nevertheless, there's a little bit of a complexity or task in retrofitting that format to the format that we're using. Always bring attention to that idea. We have to retrofit. We have to rearrange. For the longest time, for years, I never thought of that concept. I always thought, okay, I have something that I'm looking at. I'm gonna draw it or paint it. And I completely disregarded the idea of format and the idea of position and scale. And it's not something that we have read in any book or we have heard from any instructor. And we have read tons of books about teaching art and art instruction, different approaches, different books, different authors, different artists. And the idea of composition, it's not a very predominant subject. And those books or people that talk about it, it's usually very technical and using really old premises or criteria, but never found this idea of retrofitting a subject based on scale and position onto our format until we started doing it and we started bringing attention to it. And the third form of translating something visual onto a format is to use something that it's similar in size. So you can just do some horizontal alignments. And we find that this is probably one of the easiest ways of working with observation, to have something, a format and the original or the reference image with a similar size. But whichever form you approach, it doesn't mean like it's excessively complicated or super easy. In fact, it's very good to practice with each one of those forms. Practice with a phone, practice from live, and practice if you can with a format and an image that are similar in size. So my yardstick is somewhere, I have it. And I'm just gonna start doing my, oh, this feels so good, what I'm gonna say right now. I'm gonna start doing my potato shape. Oh, it feels so good. You know, you guys know our love for potatoes. Edible, non-edible, I don't care. So it's not the first time we're painting potatoes. And it will not be the last. We can assure you. It's really interesting for any of you who, any of us who may feel inspired by the subject and the concept behind the subject. We should say that there are not many paintings of French fries out there. So if you were thinking of doing a body of work, a series, a collection, inspired by this, you have very little competition. Surprisingly, there are not many paintings out there that are of French fries. So there you go, something original and conceptually so good. We were, and I didn't even, maybe Jen, if you have time, but I'm just gonna share the 2015 article in The Atlantic for everyone. You don't have to go through it because sometimes the articles, those articles are like chapters, But this article in The Atlantic mentions the studies that were done with comfort foods, specifically with French fries, that I have to mention I was shocked and I was comforted by them, just because we always associate cravings with something negative. How nice that in this study, this association is to something positive. I loved it. It makes me feel more like a human. All right, so this is my potato shape. I'm gonna do a little bit of the background. I like this image for many reasons, stylistically or aesthetically. I love the idea of a very monochromatic background, that it's not overly complicated, and a really colorful subject. So I think the more monochromatic the background or the negative space, the more intense the colors that I'm gonna choose are gonna be on the fries. So consider that as well as a stylistic trick to see if you wanna increase, depending on your artistic vision, increase the accent color on the fries, or maybe you just want to intensify anything that's around the fries and leave the fries monochromatic, perhaps. So those are the options, but this is one of the reasons why it's so good to do this together, to analyze it from a painter's point of view. And yeah. I know, Jen, what is your comfort food par excellence? It's more like a drink than a food.
It
But
is the world's comfort food, I think. A comfort drink.
but as I was reading that, I was going to ask you, do you feel like you crave it more in moments of sort of like anxiety and uncertainty, or it's just kind of like continuum?
No, it's just a forever just love for it. And my comfort drink that Julio's referring to is Coca-Cola. I love it so, so much. And I tend to crave it more when I have stuff like French fries or like pizza or something. It's rare that I, would want a Coca-Cola with like, vegetables and a good source of protein or something. It kind of all comes together. So I don't know. There's definitely something to that for sure. But I know Julio's is definitely French fries and nachos.
Nachos, yeah.
Yeah, I love
Rice,
nachos too.
bread.
Yes, bread. Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I really love popcorn too. I used to have, this is so bad, but I used to come home from high school and have a bag of microwaved popcorn every day. And somehow had the metabolism, of a teenager. And so it didn't matter, but God only knows what that's done to me long term.
You were talking about the memory of the liver, right?
The kidneys.
Or the
Yes.
kidneys.
Yes, exactly. Oh, Lord. My kidneys have some stories to tell.
And you were saying that apparently there were some tests done on the kidney or kidney related that are able to trace back things that you've done to the kidneys that are, years later, they're still traceable, correct?
The memory of the kidneys, yeah. It's mainly to do with your amount of water intake and like how hydrated or lack of hydration. But Lord only knows. I mean, there are filtering systems, so they probably have a good memory of many a thing. But yeah, you have like a couple bad years of not staying hydrated, and your kidneys remember, like a tree. I would say how you can see the rings of a tree.
That's fascinating and very interesting. Yeah, we were just having this conversation yesterday. Yeah, I just it's so nice. This started the concept, as you know, we mentioned it like much earlier than usual. Sometimes the morning of the webinar, something comes and it's clear that that's going to be the subject. But this is something that we clearly wanted to do earlier. And as every subject, and you guys know more than anyone, we try to bring elements and aspects around the subject, conceptual aspects that actually make us want to paint it even more. But with this, it's been really incredible because we started with the visual first, the appeal, the idea of comfort food, but then digging a little bit and reading about the psychology of the comfort food. It was such a revelation, and it was so interesting. It was so interesting, like, this food seen not as nourishment, but as a psychological trigger. It just made so much sense that we liked that painting and made us realize or reflect on, I don't think we've stopped being in a stressful situation in the last 3 years. We are constantly on the roller coaster little wagon nonstop. We haven't stepped out of it yet. It's one thing or another and at different levels, and we internalize differently. But sometimes we think it's not a big deal. Something's not a big deal, but then the subconscious really thinks it's a very big deal and things come out later. But it just seems that, there's it comes in waves, based on the news and the threats and the dire situations that we're putting ourselves into. And I find myself personally, it was easier to sort of like separate daily experience from information. But now it becomes sort of like I have to, it's an effort to separate myself from the influx of information. It's a task, it's a job. It becomes a little bit more arduous to make that split and make sure that there's time to engage, be present, and not think about bigger things. It didn't used to be like that. And I want to say that maybe it's something that, based on conversations we had with many people, it seems to be a universal approach, I think. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So, okay, I'm just walking through the steps, what I'm doing right now, timing wise, we're okay. I did my main silhouette first. I did some alignments to see the scale, the height, how low it is, how close it is to the edges. I gave a little bit of space. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the edge. It's right on the edge, but maybe conceptually, this idea of like squeezing things against the edge, maybe conceptually would be an invitation to feel like, we're being shoved this plate of food against us. So, or maybe it's my way of excusing that I'm really, really, really close to the edge. But I went to Kinko's to print the image, and I had two options. The option of the full image, which was square, because this was posted on Instagram and she used a square format. But then on the software to print, I had the option to also make the image kind of like crowd the entire format. And for the first time, I found myself going back and forth, square or rectangular, square or rectangular. And I thought rectangular, I don't like that it's so close to the edge, but I like that it's such a close-up. And square, I just felt like it wasn't as appealing. So maybe something in the subconscious or something played out and decided to go for the full view. So what I did after that, I started doing my structural lines. In this case, there are I would say about three structural lines. Clearly the separation between the fries as a group and the plate or the vessel or whatever's holding the fries. We posted some images. Some of them didn't have anything to hold the fries. So depending on how the fries are contained or not contained, you decide if you need that separation. Regardless if you have a bowl or not, you'll still have to do this sort of like separation between the actual fries and either the surface of the bowl. But the next thing, it's just the ketchup. So that was a clear structural line as well. So I just drew it. And then, so the way I'm thinking of approaching this would be treating the fries as texture. So therefore, I'm not going to spend too much time right now. I did one, but I'm thinking that it may not be a good idea. Maybe I'll just do a couple of main structural lines. But I'm going to treat the fries as texture. And as we know, because we've done so many themes and subjects together, texture always goes at the end. Texture always goes at the end. So I envision this process as starting with the sketch, separating the different structures or deconstructing the different parts and the silhouette. And then I'm going to go staining first color nodes. And on the first color nodes, I'm going to find the color. I'm excited to practice the color of the fries because this is one of the elements that we maybe associate with a color. We say fries yellow, but this will be a good opportunity to study this sort of like yellowish tone. I'm not sure which kind of combination of colors I'm going to end up mixing, and this will be so good because we've never done the actual color of the fries before. And when I move to second color notes, then I'll start doing the highs and lows. So I will not do the separation between the fries, the higher values and darker values on the fries until I jump to second color notes. So that's my idea. I don't know how it's going to play out, but that's going to be my idea of doing this. So yeah. So whenever did you get a chance to see any highlight on that article regarding the origin? Or I learned a little bit about making fries, the two-step process. I was like, okay,
I just went straight to the origin. Are you talking about on Wikipedia, Julio?
Yeah. So what does the origin say?
Okay, so it's of course complicated. But it says, this whole thing about, it being French and maybe Belgian and maybe French. And then in the middle, it says in 1673, Francisco Nuez de Pienda, I'm butchering that, I am sure, mentioned eating papa fritas in 1629, but it is not known exactly what they were. It says fries may have been invented in Spain.
Oh my gosh!
European country in which the potato appeared from the New World colonies.
That's it.
So it could be that.
You know what? In my mind, it is that.
There you go.
I was reading automatically because of my sort of like internal prejudices. I was rooting for the Belgian because
I know you were.
They already have so much.
Right, exactly.
I was thinking, let's just give the Belgians something to be proud of. But after what you read, it's clear. It just makes sense.
Yes. It says, it even says that a Belgian professor believed that Saint Teresa of Avila of Spain cooked the first French fries, and refers also to the tradition of frying in Mediterranean. Frying in Mediterranean cuisine as evidence.
That's so. Can you repeat her name?
Okay, it's Saint Teresa of, and I think it's Avila. It's Avila.
Avila, yes.
Avila. Okay.
Santa Teresa de Avila. Wow.
There you go.
Okay, well, I'm rooting for her because, as we know, usually women are completely erased from history.
Oof,
and
for real.
They are the ones who actually create things and then someone else takes credit for. That's it.
The funniest thing is that this professor is the curator of the Friet Museum in Bruges.
Oh, wow.
And he's the one that believes that Saint Teresa of Spain cooked the first ones.
Okay, so I know there are many depictions of her. If you can find
Oh yeah, let's see.
it's a portrait, because I think that this would be a fascinating breakthrough of painting this.
You got it. I'll post one on the
Okay. Oh my gosh, Jen, thank you so much. This is so
oh my
much fun
gosh, of course.
already. I love this stuff. Wow. Yeah, one of the things I didn't know is that it's a double process. You have to either blanch the potato so it actually gets semi-cooked, and then fry it, or you have to double fry it first with low heat and then with high heat. I mean, it's just, I thought it was kind of like
right.
Say that again.
Who were we just talking to that was talking about double frying? And it was like I think it was Kathy, right? Was it Kathy who was saying French fries were double fried? She went somewhere where the French fries were double fried, and one of them was duck fat.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think she was asking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I've never done French fries myself, which I'm embarrassed about. But I've always seen people dumping the fries in the fryer, but obviously the frozen fries must have been pre-cooked already. So in my mind, I thought, these are already cut and everything and then dumped and fried, but it's not that easy. Apparently that's not the case. Each process gives the fry a different texture and a different taste. So there you go. Yeah, it's just I don't know, so much to learn about. Yes, Santa Teresa de Avila, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, like growing up, by the way, some of the articles that we found about the psychology of comfort food, they emphasize the importance of each culture. I wouldn't even say country, because I think culture goes beyond the idea of country, but each culture has their own comfort food menu. So, and then some articles were just mentioning different countries and different continents and different recipes, but the idea is the same. What I find fascinating is the emotional connection that you make through the food that you eat when you're a child. And depending on whatever experience you have had as a child with your emotional state, and that food usually associated with something positive, that remains hardwired in our brains, and that kind of like comes back as adults when we are confronted by situations that makes us feel removed from that happy emotional state. Hold on a second. Here we go. I just thought that that was so interesting and fascinating. I mean, I know you haven't watched the movie, but the movie Ratatouille, which is a really amazing, beautiful movie, it is precisely about this. It's precisely about this, especially the end. And it's about criticism. It's not art criticism, but because in the movie it's about culinary criticism, but the flashback that the critic has when he eats the food. I mean, you gotta watch this movie, Jen.
I know. All right, I'll watch it.
Just yeah, just show it to Henry and then kind of like peek, because if he hasn't watched it, that he'll appreciate. It's one of those moments where you remember, oh yeah, I remember that movie from my time.
Aw.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Maybe we'll watch it tonight.
No,
I do love Mickey Mouse, and he's a mouse.
yeah, there you go.
So there's something there, I guess.
There you go. Yeah. I was in one of the conversations a while ago in one of the rooms. I think now it's a total desert clubhouse, and nobody's going there. But at some point, there were a lot of very interesting people joining conversations, and one of them was an art dealer specialized in Dutch Renaissance art, who was essentially providing pieces for collectors and museums, like very knowledgeable. He lives in the East Coast in one of Frank Lloyd Wright's homes. So he's very well known in the art world, and he teaches, he lectures, incredible. So, you know, you would hear him speak, and then he's just kind of like amazing, you know, great memory, and be able to drop names constantly, remembering dates. Absolutely incredible. One of these really well-spoken, smart people. And then in one conversation, someone talked about this movie and also WALL-E. And all of a sudden he jumps in the conversation and says, those are two of my favorite films. And I was like, what?
WALL-E is one of my favorite films of all time, for sure.
Yeah. So he started kind of like talking about these films and explaining. And I was like, wow, you just never know, you know, you just never know what kind of like deep influence something that you may think it's not really important may have on somebody. So yeah, if you like WALL-E, yeah, Ratatouille is pretty amazing too. All right, I'm so happy with the sketch. I'm ready time-wise, a little bit later than I would have preferred, because usually, because it's us, we kind of like do it within the first half an hour. But nevertheless, it's not bad. The timing is not bad. So I'm gonna do the first color, the staining, I'm sorry, the imprimatura. But I need to do my palette really quickly. But things that I'm looking at: composition, size, location, edges, or how close it is to the edges. That's what I'm looking at when I look at the finished product or the sketch. I did a little bit of shading, just because it's a very important part of the sketch. It kind of like moves the sketch away from being way too linear, and it makes it closer, or just kind of like reveals the light direction, the edge quality, the value scale. So yeah, I'm gonna use a big brush. I don't have a big brush, so I'm just gonna, no, I do have a big brush. And then, okay, so, oopsie, yeah, and then our two, ecru for sure. I think I'm gonna need ecru for some reason. And I don't think you can do this from live. I would be hungry all the time, meaning I don't think I can order fries, bring them home, put them on a table, and look at them for 2 hours. It's impossible.
I'm so curious if anyone did, if any of our painters did that. If you did, write it in the chat.
Please, you're our hero. You will rely on you for emotional support, because I wouldn't be able to do it. It would be a form of torture. I mean, remember on trails, we were just talking about that, and we felt super hungry as we were talking.
We did. Okay, Lois did it.
Stop!
Love it, Lois.
No way.
He said, check my photo.
Oh my gosh, Lois.
Lois.
Okay, you're a superwoman.
Amazing.
Let me see. Oh, wow. Okay, for everyone to see. I hope you order a second batch and you're just doing that one, because that would be the only way I can imagine. A second order. This looks fantastic, Lois. Wow.
Yum.
I know.
Oh my gosh, Five Guys. They've got really great fries.
Wow.
Look at that composition. Hello.
It's very Renaissance-like.
It's gorgeous.
Accidental Renaissance for sure.
For real. With a little ketchup packet. That reminds me when Henry's first Halloween, I was, okay, let me see if I can remember all this correctly.
Oh, I think I remember you guys dressed.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a burger. Carl was a In-N-Out employee. Henry was a ketchup packet. And I think Harry, our dog, was French fries.
Oh.
I think that's right. But seeing that little ketchup packet reminded me. So great.
Oh, that's so cool. I remember those images. Well, thanks for sharing. Yeah, definitely you are above everyone else.
10 points for Gryffindor.
Yeah. Wow. That's, yeah, that deserves recognition and acknowledgement, Lois. I don't think I would have been able to do it. Okay, so I'm just blocking out. I'm going darker to lighter, and with a little bit of solvent, a little bit of paint, and doing semi-transparent consistency. Not trying to match or anything at this stage. I just need a wet surface, a wet layer, something to start building from. And yeah. Oh, and by the way, also, I just wanted to bring, it's not related to this, but it was very interesting. So last Monday, not 2 Mondays ago, there was a New York painter who passed away. Her name was Jennifer Bartlett. Let me just, Jennifer. Bartlett. And yeah, so she passed away 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago. We didn't know her. We never heard her name. We've never seen works by her in any sort of like museum or gallery, but apparently she was a well-established and also well-known in the commercial art circles painter. So every time we hear of an artist passing, we kind of like make a note, just because more likely than not, it's someone that we haven't heard of. And secondly, when that happens, especially today, going back to the news being so crazy every day, I think some people posted memes or notes saying people are fatigued and exhausted of listening to historic news. You know, this is historic and historic this and historic that. So there's, you know, I found it interesting. I mean, funny, but because of the intensity of the news, things like that, artists or intellectuals or writers passing, or yeah, artists of any kind, by the way, they don't sort of like get the same amount of attention as before. So we know that there's always something to learn about someone's life and someone's story. So we make an effort to do a little bit of research, not too much, and find out a little bit more about the artist. And I'm saying this because her work is very interesting. She was known for painting on stainless steel, and also she was known for painting on squares, individual squares that she put together and created bigger paintings. But I'm mentioning this, and I made a note for myself because she had a very strong opinion or idea about not making a distinction between abstract and figurative. In many occasions, and some of her quotes, she says that for her, there wasn't a distinction. In fact, she painted some landscapes on some of those stainless steel squares, and then she did like really minimalistic abstraction on other panels. So I haven't seen an example of an artist who embraces both languages so clear and unapologetic as in Jennifer Bartlett. It was the first time that, because I feel like I've heard discussions and I've been part of discussions in which no, this or that, or abstraction is truer and figuration is old fashioned and yada, yada, yada. And, but hearing about how she thinks of these two languages or two approaches and how she goes back and forth, it was so good. Sorry for that, but I just wanted to mention that I'm going to use her work and her any other conversation or explanation or discussion that I may find myself in, talking about figurative versus abstract. So on the imprimatura, I did something that we usually don't do. I brought in a little bit of white, but don't tell anyone. And I'm just gonna bring some ecru maybe for the plate. Again, this layer, as we know, it's very foundational, extremely preliminary. It's supposed to seal the surface, or prime the surface rather. Prime the surface, seal the charcoal. Okay, yeah, we're gonna, I wasn't worried, and I'm even less worried of making this look like a French fries. Don't worry about the level of figuration on your painting. This will be easy to achieve. Easy to achieve. More reason to kind of like explore, experiment, and try new things. I'm using burnt sienna as a substitute for red instead of using red, at least at this stage. And I'm going to do something right now. I think I'm just going to do yellow ochre and maybe a little bit of ecru, yellow ochre and ecru. And I'm going to paint or block out the fries. So yellow ochre and ecru.
I posted in the notes Jennifer Bartlett's Wikipedia page.
Thanks, Jen.
And I'll do the wiki art too, because I know that's
okay.
Better.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. No, it's good to have it as a reference. Because, you know, yeah. It's, you guys, everyone knows how we feel about learning and reading, and we strongly feel like one of the pillars of painting practice is to be open-minded and and receive information and stories from other painters. It just gives you perspective, understanding, and I feel like it enriches your approach to painting. I'm not necessarily convinced that it affects our style, our painting style, but it does affect our process. I feel like, you know, the more I learn about how different artists approach painting, how they define painting, what painting means to them, when they talk about process, I just feel like I'm receiving these truths, these hidden truths that no one has shared before. So that's why we're so, you know, we're so into this, or learning and discovering and finding out. And well, I think I'm done, you guys. It looks pretty complete to me, but I'm just gonna continue.
Okay, no, Julio, I looked up and saw your painting and I was like, well, he's finished. So you're not alone. I thought exactly the same thing.
Okay, good. No, that's hilarious.
I was like, this looks amazing and he's done. Well, you did use the white early, so let this be a lesson.
Yeah, that's it. Maybe that's right. That's so funny. Yeah, okay, so this is very good because yesterday we hosted a private painting session, and every time we talk, Jen and I talk, or sort of discuss something with anyone, but at every stage or in every session, there's always something that gets illuminated. Even though we may use the same words sometimes, or we repeat certain things, there's never a time or a session in which we leave without having learned something, or having tools to reflect on things in a different way. And I'm saying this because yesterday, so the painter was working on a commission, and she did a fantastic job. She put all the pieces together, but we realized that there's a point on a painting in which the painting achieves its function. Let's say let's put the example of a commission. You're doing a painting because someone else wants a portrait or a landscape or whatever it is. So you start the process, you sketch, you work on it, blah, blah, blah. And there's always a point in which the painting achieves the benchmark of what it's supposed to do, which is be a painting for that person. Any brushstroke or any work that you do beyond that benchmark, it's for you. It's not for the person. So I thought that was like an interesting, also sort of like releasing responsibility, because we could apply this to us. There's always a point in our process, and you guys know more than anyone because we've done this together. There's always a point on the process. It almost feels like a tipping point in which the painting achieves enough strength that it doesn't need anything else. Let's kind of like look at it from the perspective of criteria. It's recognizable. It has the illusion of space. We painted the shadows. There's enough detail, whatever, texture, variation, edge quality, whatever it is that we use when we assess a painting, it already has it. After the tipping point, it's essentially the work that we do, it's essentially just for us to either please us or to either become a form of experimentation or either to allow us to push ourselves. But beyond that tipping point, there's nothing about the painting that needs more. And on that note, I'm gonna jump to first color notes. And it's perfect timing, actually. It's 1 hour. So I'm gonna switch the brush And I am going to change the liquids, not change, but switch the liquids. And I'm going to do darker to lighter. And I'm going to think about this because I know after doing this, I know that it's not going to take me that long to do texture on the French fries. So I'm going to break up the next hour into different chunks. Maybe I'm going to do 15 minutes of peripheral background. You know how big we are on developing the background, the area outside the focal point, in order to actually elevate the entire painting. So I'm going to focus the next 15-20 minutes even on peripheral area. One of the things that I like to do, and you don't have to, and nobody has to, but especially talking about the 3 ways of using an image reference: from live, from a smartphone, and from a photograph that has the same or similar size. One of the things that I love to do is to compare and test and the color using the transparent sheet. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to do that using, yeah, a little bit of chromatic black. Yeah, chromatic black, raw umber, and I put a little bit of ecru because it's not pitch black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work on that peripheral area, the area further away. So first, color nodes, a little bit more opacity. Remember two super important aspects on first color nodes: edge quality, color direction. First color nodes are the most important stage, or is the most important stage in the process. We are multitasking, we are bringing back edges, and we are processing colors. We're doing 2 things at the same time. I always love to articulate what I'm doing, so I know what I'm doing. So this idea that of not knowing what I'm doing and feeling lost, I've always been able to overcome that feeling by actually explaining to myself what is that I'm gonna do and what's supposed to happen right now, what stage I'm at. That helps me kind of like overcome that sense of loss. So first color nodes, a little bit more opacity, darker to lighter, working on the edge quality a little bit, bringing back the edges, and making a color that has a little bit more of a specific direction. Oh, there's another artist. Let me see if I can first look for it, because it's kind of like a really weird name. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. So Jen, if you want to do a search, he's a contemporary artist.
Okay.
And he's still alive. He's 70 years old. Dyke Blair, and he's famous for doing still lifes. We've talked about his work before.
Yeah.
Hyperrealism.
He's not the guy that like did one a day or whatever.
No.
Is it? Okay.
He's not, but he's the artist who we used as inspiration for the cocktail theme years ago. And the glass
my,
of water.
oh Lord. How are these paintings?
I know, yeah, that's ridiculous.
Okay, I'll post.
Yeah, if you can find, if he didn't do any French fries, then it's not worth it. But I was thinking of him. His paintings go by, I mean, so much money. He is one of those artists that nobody knows. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Do you think no one knows because of the lack of abstraction?
I don't know. I think he was more recognized at a time when hyperrealism was a thing, was a trend. I think in the 90s, he was probably much more recognized. But and then, I mean, yeah, people lose interest, and then new people come in. So you may have your heyday if you have that in your life at some point, but it just goes goes by, goes over you. I know that at this point, and also it's the character of the artist. I don't know if he's interested in. I don't know, but I know that he is in catalogs and books, and he is known by art dealers and collectors. But yeah, it's one of those situations. It's not his time. And he does sort of like still lives with drinks and yeah, no French fries possibly, right?
Not that I found so far, but I'm going on WikiArt to make sure.
Okay. I'm gonna do my second sort of like color match of sorts. The stainless steel table. Okay, so I got chromatic black and the periwinkle, and that's gonna be that, maybe a touch of pink. You will, we're going like all in. You will not find any other artists out there, I argue, who gives these three colors so much importance. Gray, the periwinkle, the light blue that we have, and salmon rose. Yeah, those are ours. It's so funny. Okay, so I'm just gonna do the stainless steel, and I found the combination of colors. And I'm just saying this because we keep using them. You know how we have moved, especially with, for example, with blacks. We've done the Van Dyke brown. We did the gray, the cool gray. I even forgot the name. The dark, cold black. Anyhow, it's gonna go.
Oh, Payne's Gray?
The Payne's Gray, yes, Payne's Gray. We have changed and moved from, with yellow, Hansa yellow, from yellow ochre. So we've done our moves, and evolutions and phases and time. But the periwinkle and the salmon rose have been a staple throughout the years. There's such great tones to process other colors.
Julio, Dyke Blair did not do
Okay.
French fries, but he did do Coca-Cola.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I won't post it. I'm gonna see if our one a day.
Oh,
dude
yes,
did.
if you can.
Let's see. You don't remember his name off the top of your head, do you?
And I don't remember. And also, if you can find a painting of a comfort food by Dyke Blair.
Okay. Oh yeah, there's hot dogs. Do you think
okay,
that's comfort?
All right.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Just since we talked about him and everything, to kind of like visualize or illustrate the style. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take my time. It's 7 minutes, so I'm okay. Constantly kind of like checking. And I'm gonna do the cast shadow. It's a little bit warmer. I love experimenting with colors. It's like it feels like seasoning food. Speaking of food, you know, a little bit of this, a pinch of that, a particle of that other color. So it just feels really good to practice. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go for this combination. It's raw umber, burnt sienna, a little bit of salmon rose, and a little bit of periwinkle. Yeah. It feels warmer, but I'm not going to change it. It feels like it's warmer than the photograph, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm going to use the rag and sort of like semi-blend right here. Yeah. Okay, so I am just continuing with this first color notes. That's what I'm doing. First color notes. Remember, 2 major themes, priorities, top of the list, principal criteria. Edge quality, sorry, edge quality, color direction, edge quality, color direction. They both happen at the same time. It's monumental. It's the true breakthrough. It's the actually departing of the ship. It's a serious, it's when the plane takes off, when the wheels stop touching the ground, this is it. We're refining the edges and we're finding a little bit of a direction. We don't have to match the color, but we have to process the palette. The raw material needs to be processed. Otherwise, it's going to be a boring, flat, unless there's a concept behind it, painting. So we are containing some of the edges or refining or creating some of the edges, and we are starting to process the color. So major move. First color notes, that's where we're at. We couldn't do first color notes, also very important. Let's sort of like go through our process and one more time. It's never enough. It's never one last time. We could never do first color notes without sketch, shading, and imprimatura. We can't. There is a preparation, there is an experience that happens through the different stages that conditions us to do a better job during the first color notes. Change my mind, as the meme goes. You can start the painting with first color notes. Absolutely. You can skip the sketching. Yes, I'm not questioning that. But there's something about doing these things at the beginning that makes you better prepared to approach this step. So peripheral areas, just working with a little bit of white in this case. And I'm trying to blend a little bit, although I start blending on the second color notes, but I'm blending right now a little bit. So you see, you just get this idea of peripheral space, not the focal point, that actually helps the focal point itself. Okay, and I'm just gonna move. I'm gonna go by darker to lighter. I'm gonna go by darker to lighter. So I think I'm okay with the peripheral area. Maybe I'll just, gosh, I used Van Dyke Brown last week and I thought it was so spectacular that I feel like I need it. Anyhow, we'll see. Just to darken that spot. I'm getting a little bit too, this makes me feel as if I were in a park. I'm a little boy, I'm in a park, I'm on the swings, my mom is calling me, let's go home. And I say, one last swing. And I refuse to leave the swings at the park. One more. So that's how I feel about this painting. One last brushstroke. I need one last brush. Allow me to do it, to stay here one more second. It's that impulse to, relish in that moment and getting like a wave of excitement one last time. All right, so I'm dropping it. I'm gonna go to the ketchup. And for the ketchup, I'm excited. I don't think I've ever painted ketchup. So I think I'm going to bring the red toolbox or the red color compartment, because we have some reds. And so the departing color will be, the departing color will be burnt sienna. I feel, because we have a special connection with a color that we discovered in one of the tutorials, brown pink. We have a special connection with brown pink. I don't know. I'm working with intuition right here. I feel like brown pink could help us a lot. I don't know. No. Okay. Yeah, no. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Let's go for the cadmium-free red. I think that's gonna be the case. If you have cadmium red, finish it, donate it, and get some cadmium free. We get way too much cadmium from the environment. You know what? Cadmium red is not a great red for this. Quinacridone, it's a little bit more like purple. Wow, this is like, let's just bring some quinacridone color. They're so stained, I don't even know what name of the color it is. We need to purple it up. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That is ketchup. Isn't that amazing? All right, so the combination is burnt sienna as a base, no cadmium free color or cadmium related or cadmium looking red. So it's burnt sienna, quinacridone, and a little bit of the salmon rose. Isn't that amazing? Okay, let me just try it again. Burnt sienna, quinacridone, and some salmon rose. Is that right? Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Maybe in some areas, I'm gonna bring some yellow ochre. No. Okay, so I'm sticking with that combination, those three reds. All right, so I'm just going for it. Here we go. That's what's gonna be. And then I'm gonna bring some pink later. So that's what I'm gonna do. Burnt sienna, quinacridone, red, I think, and salmon rose. I'm going for this. It's like a beet ketchup a little bit, but I'm gonna bring some colors later, some lighter colors. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Okay, so this is a good example of what first color notes are. I am doing some edge work as I paint. I create a color direction with reds. So that's all there is for first color notes. I'm gonna avoid adding any highs or lows on this blob of ketchup. Okay, I am done with that. I'm gonna go, you know, I should go for the fries, but I'm gonna go to the plate because I feel like I need some sort of like color study. And I'm gonna really clean if you have a different brush, it wouldn't be a bad idea to switch the brush from whatever color you use for red, just because, yeah. So ecru and maybe a tad of yellow ochre because the color of the fries is bouncing. Okay. Wait. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. The color of the fries is bouncing on the plate. In my case. Okay. So I'm blocking a little bit of oil. And I'm blocking. And now I'm going to bring a little bit of the lighter tone. Maybe I'll bring some white. I'm a little afraid because this oval shape will change. But I'm going to do it anyhow. With plates, I always found that the oval shape constantly moves, meaning I would do the plate, I would do the oval shape. And then as I work, I realize that it's either too flat here or not curved enough. So I always end up tweaking that shape. And I'm concerned just because since I'm using white, if I need to shave off or darken that area, it'll become a little bit harder. I think so. Just gonna bring a little bit of the white. I'm not gonna do the green band right now. I will do it, but not right now. And I'm just gonna block this. This should have been the last area, but because it's the highlight of the painting, or not the highlight of the painting, the brighter highlight on the painting. But I'm doing it because I want to spend some time practicing the color of the fries. Yeah, I think that's good. I already feel I need to change so many things, so many colors. But that's okay. I'm gonna leave it like that. And I'm gonna go to, it's perfect timing because I feel like, maybe it's gonna take me about 10 minutes, but I'm gonna go to the color of the fries and see if I can get sort of like an average tone and experiment which kind of color I need to combine. Yeah, get some water. It's very hot out there and the air is hot. All right, so I did yellow ochre and ecru at the beginning. I'm gonna mix it again and put it right here. Okay, so I'm gonna bring two colors, orange and Hansa yellow, because I feel I'm gonna need to use them. To kind of like process this initial color. So I'm gonna bring the orange and I'm gonna bring a little bit of the Hansa. We switched to Hansa because it's cadmium free, by the way. It's a bit more transparent. In fact, people love cadmium. Painters have loved cadmium because cadmium creates opacity. There's this chalky feeling. So it has a lot of coverage. Okay, so I think I'm gonna bring the lighter first, the yellow, and a little bit of orange.
I wonder if the Napa yellow would be really great in this.
Napa yellow. Can you?
What is it called?
Naples.
Naples. That's it.
Oh my gosh, you're right, Jen.
If I could get the name right.
No. It would be good, actually. I don't know. I have it somewhere else, but I think I'm happy with this. But you're right. That could be, it's a good color to have. Okay, maybe some ecru. there's warmth. There's so much warmth that even with the orange alone in certain parts, it's orange and pink. There's pink in these fries. Yes, there is. Okay, so I'm gonna add some pink here to warm up the orange. I mean that, yeah. Okay, so I'm going for it. It's a combination of many things, so I'm not sure, but ecru, yellow ochre, a little bit of Hansa, a little bit of orange, and a little bit of pink. It's gorgeous. Okay, I'm going for it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to establish some edge work and just block things out for now. Look at this, just to totally ignite it. I haven't used any white on this. And again, it's a really processed color. It's not yellow, it's not orange, it's not one of the colors that we used, that they're on our palette, the staple palette. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. Ecru, yellow ochre, orange, Hansa yellow, salmon rose. Very, 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 very processed. How do you call, Jen, how do you call this zigzag fries? I know they have a name, this cut.
Crinkle cut.
Say that again?
Crinkle cut.
Crinkle cut. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. So pretty.
Mm-hmm. So nostalgic. I feel like crinkle cut are like
Oh, really?
so dinery. Yeah, I think so. Because it's rare that you get crinkle cut like fast food.
Yeah.
You know, you usually get the straight, whatever they're called.
Right.
But the crinkle cut, that's like legit.
Legit. Cool. All right, so I'm just going to continue. I'm going to do another batch. So once I kind of like create a formula or whatever combination of colors, I try to remember it and I repeat it, and perfectly being aware that every time that I repeat the batch is not going to be the same, and embracing that, because that's why we're using oil. We went to Taco Zone this week, and we had someone who painted with us before, but just once, and we were just talking about oil, you know, and how amazing it is that oil has a life of its own, and it's not supposed to be predictable, and you have to break the association with matching or conforming when you paint with oil, I think. Um, I'm going to paint everything actually, even the darker spots, and close the gaps. I'm going to make a big kind of like pile of things. And then my strategy will be in the last half hour, I will focus on second color notes on the fries. But yeah, so right now I'm just closing the gaps. And I don't even care if it's lighter or darker. Yeah, I think so. We'll see. I think this is going to work. I'm making an approximation. Okay. All right. So this will be the completion of my first color notes, in which I established the two most important parts of that stage, which are edge quality and color direction. I was able to study a little bit the colors and then experiment with possibilities. I went darker to lighter. I finished with focal point, which is the fries, but I took opportunities to kind of like study and process the palette, and at the same time, bring some definition on the edges. And now I'm going to move to second color notes. And second color notes is when you start diversifying, you focus on one part of the painting. You abandon the idea of going darker to lighter on the overall piece, and you artistically decide which area is going to have a little bit more detail or work. So that's for starters, and I'm going to use the fries. And then what happens also, maybe you increase the consistency of the paint, but I'm going to do darker to lighter on this area. And so I'm going to try to expand or stretch the distinction between darker color and lighter color. So I stay within the same. I painted this with one color, and that's, you know, first color notes. I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to do second color notes, expanding the range between lighter version and darker version of that color. So for this, I just want to, I'm going to change my brush. Yeah, I'm going to change my brush. And I want to, it's definitely orange. And I'm going to do orange and burnt sienna. Yeah, orange and burnt sienna. So this will be kind of like the darker area. Okay, so here it goes, orange and burnt sienna. And I'm gonna have fun just bringing some darker notes. So second color notes, what I'm doing right now is I go darker to lighter. Within the area that I picked. I just like go through the different parts. A little bit lighter. I imagine the openings as if they were also objects. So I try to disassociate the object with the thing that I'm painting right now, the shadows. And I only look at the shape that the shadow has. I look at the shape that the shadow has. And I'm going to make an effort not to make it too matchy-matchy. In other words, I'm going to forget that I already established a direction with the paint underneath. I'm going to forget that. And if that shadow, that shape of a shadow falls somewhere in between the French fry or in a different place, so be it. I think that's much more interesting than just making each of the fries predictable in shape. And I love the idea of having more than one outline for each fry. So I'm going to go one step at a time. I'm not going to rush. We have time. My idea will be to work on the darker shadows first, and then I'm going to look or create a highlight. And yeah, so it'll be a two-step process. There's going to be more in between, obviously, but this is a work in progress. So I'm going to work on this for a few more sessions. But that will be the strategy. And maybe the last 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to do some highlights on the ketchup. So I try not to be too specific, counting every French fry. But at the same time, I allow myself to have a certain structure in painting this. And I jump. I'm not being too careful of doing something for way too long. So orange and burnt sienna. Orange and burnt sienna. This is so much fun. I'm so happy we're doing this. It always happens, but there's always this idea that sometimes whichever premise we propose may just come may seem like at odds with what's happening. Sometimes we try to be sort of like very consequential. Something's happening, let's do something to talk about it. And sometimes we bring in themes that may feel almost like borderline tone deaf. The gravity of the moment that we're going through may require a different approach, and instead we choose something mundane and borderline frivolous. But I love the journeys that we make when that happens. There's always something that relates to the experience. So I love that, with this, it may seem mundane and frivolous, but it actually provided an opportunity to learn more about ourselves. Learn, period. And then learn more about ourselves. Why do we like a special or specific food, or what kind of bondings do we make with people? Are those bondings related directly with how we grew up? Did we have like strong attachments? Did we make strong attachments? Did we make strong, healthy attachments with people in our childhood? I love all that kind of stuff. And then I was also reading, because the study feels really strange and weird, dividing two groups of people, one with people that would easily bond with others and would see relationships in a positive way, and the other one with people having difficulty to bond and seeing relationships negatively. And then at first, I had to read it a couple of times, by the way, because at first I wasn't really understanding that category, that premise. And then I realized, wow, there is such a thing as people that are unable to form strong bonds with others, and people that see relationships negatively. And I started to kind of like go through my mental Rolodex of friendships that I have known in the past, and trying to find out if I could apply that concept to some people that I feel some friends or people that I've known have been able to form like stronger and more positive relationships. And also recognizing those very few that have always been struggling to form strong bonds or permanent bonds, or having this ability to see things positively relationship wise. And I was like, yep, I know those those people. Oh, it's been really interesting to go through this. And I see that differently right now. Maybe when I was more immature, I would instantly judge, those people who had difficulty making friends. But now, because of this, I'm just thinking and exculping them and thinking, you know what, it's not them. It's not them. It's maybe their circumstances, conditions, things that were out of their control that maybe planted a seed that made them less likely to form strong bonds. I keep saying bones. But here's the upside to this. They're going to crave less comfort foods. So, so there's an advantage. Right? I guess.
Yeah, maybe there's something to that, like like oh gosh, this is horrible, but it's like this is never mind, I'm gonna bite my tongue. Never mind.
Yeah, anyhow, all these like things I love. Yeah. So I'm gonna now go, okay, perfect. I have a few minutes. I'm gonna go to the highlights. So I feel like this was good, and this is a perfect description of walking through uncharted territory. You come up with an idea, you think that's gonna work, you start applying it, and you immediately, if you rush through judgment, you immediately say, uh-oh, failure is around the corner. This is not working out. It's not what I thought it was going to happen. So this is a good sort of like example of sometimes that might be the case. Having an idea and executing it, it's never a guarantee that it's going to be successful. But at the same time, we have to be realistic in understanding that unless we fully execute something, we will not entirely know if it's going to be good or bad. We can't just think about it, initiate the execution, and then in the middle of it or at the early stages, stop because we imagine that that's not going well. We have to find a sweet spot between being a little bit more disciplined and understanding that it's not a bad idea to hold off judgment before we reach a conclusion. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's how I feel after doing the darker areas. When I did the first few shadows, I felt, oh, I'm not sure if this is going anywhere, because it just felt a little bit weak. But after doing a few more, I found the confidence in knowing that that was the right decision. I'm going to do the highlight. So I have 2 goals for the rest of the time, and we're going to be until 12:05. 1:05, I'm sorry. One goal is to make highlights for the fries. The second goal is to make highlights for the ketchup. Let's see how that goes. I know the highlight has a different hue, so I'm just going to start with Hansa yellow and white. I'm not going to use the same puddle and add white, because I know that that's not how things work. I'm going to bring some pink. And that's it. That's going to be my highlight. Completely different process. I'm not going to simply use the color that I did with the shadows and add white. I'm going to create a new color, process a new color. And this one, it's much easier. Just 3 colors, Hansa yellow, white, and pink. And now I'm going to go through the fries and stipple a few brush strokes. I don't have to be too rigorous here. Remember, we are playing in a space between our eyes and our mind, a space in between. So we don't have to make everything recognizable, and we have to trust our mind in putting the painting together for us. So because it's a space in between, things are not fully formed, and I use the word playing, so I'm just going to have a little bit of fun with the brush strokes, and that's going to be amazing. So it's important that we embrace and learn to give us encouragement and positive feedback. Always, you know, we're always gonna have like a cloud over us when we create. There's always this idea of not being good enough, and that's fine. I accept that. It's part of the deal. But at the same time, it's very important to find some patches of sun when we achieve a minor victory and really, really give us credit and congratulate our efforts and feel excited about it, because no one else will do it. We have to. I mean, no one else. I mean, that's pretty dark, but we're the best ones to do it. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm just adding this kind of like first notes and feeling the awe of the magic that's happening right now, and how amazing this is, and discovering the reason why we do it, and yeah, how magical it is. So I'm having some Ratatouille moment right now, Jen.
Good.
When you watch the movie.
Excited. You're so good at talking me into having a different perspective on things and getting me excited about it.
Oh. Look at these fries. Come on. All right, so that's happening at time mark 1.50 minutes. Another lesson, sometimes the magic likes to wait. Yeah, we need to give it space. We need to nurture it. We need to trust it. I'm using some Van Goghian brush strokes, kind of like pixelated a little bit, just because the crinkled thing, it's very complex. So instead of, and also definitely non-conforming brush strokes. I'm not wiping things, windshield wiping these fries. Don't windshield wipe your fries. Break up that direction, make it non-conforming. Cut the brush stroke. Don't windshield wipe it. White, yellow, pink, or salmon rose. That's the process. That's the alchemy. That's the color that I'm making that most likely we will never make again. That's the excitement also, and how amazing each painting session is. Some of the colors that we create will never be repeated. So wonderful. So wonderful. I just because it's a highlight, I need to make sure that I change the gear. So I'm not putting pressure on it. I'm being gentle with my brush because I want to make sure that I leave this sort of like frosting on the upper layer of my, what's the word? I'll find the word. It starts with C-O-N, confecture. I'm just,
I don't know.
let me see if I'm wasting minutes here, but.
Confection, is that what you're thinking, Julio?
Confiture, maybe that's
No,
right.
I don't know.
Confiture. I don't know. Okay, I'll spend time later, but I thought of a different expression. What were you saying, Jen? Which one?
I was saying confection, but I mean
Confection.
fries aren't like.
I think that's it.
If you say like frosting,
Yes.
then yeah, confection works.
Okay, that's it. That's it. I wasn't. Thanks. I wasn't
Sure.
too far. Okay. Oh my gosh, I think I'm gonna cry right now. I'm so happy. Okay, I'm gonna do the ketchup. We have time. We have 9 minutes, right? Yes. What are we doing with the ketchup? We need highlights. We need highlights. Okay, let's just, it's too dark. We need to lighten this up. Maybe now we can just use the, oh, no, this cadmium red is overrated. It's not a great red. We're so posh these days with cadmiums. They're better reds than cadmium red. Okay, so I'm gonna use some geez. I'm gonna use some quinacridone rose. And what? Maybe orange? Quinacridone and orange? Yes! Quinacridone and orange. Here we go. How about that? Oh my gosh, gorgeous. So I'm doing some. Oh my gosh. Yes, quinacridone and orange. I'm not even gonna put white here because nothing makes a red color more zombie-like than adding white to it. Don't add white to red unless you want to create a different color. But white on red or mixed with red will just create, what is it? A mutant red, a mutant red. Okay, I am going to bring periwinkle on that red because there is sheen. I'm going to bring periwinkle. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. So mixing some periwinkle creates almost this lavender tone. And the idea is to just bring some sheen. So what's important is also to assess the difference of the surface quality of what we're painting. I have the stainless steel. This needs to be shiny. I have the porcelain plate or the ceramic. The ceramic has a little bit of sheen, but it's sort of like eggshell-ish. The fries, matte, rough, porous, absorbing. The ketchup, wet, shiny, you know. So this is more important actually than color. The quality of the surface, we're really getting into the deep principle importance of painting, which is not color. It's the quality of each of the surfaces we paint and how to expand on that illusion. Oh, so many discoveries. I mean, quinacridone and orange makes a better red. It's a little bit dimmed. It's a little bit dim. It's not bright enough. What am I gonna do? Some yellow to it? I'm not happy. I'm not super happy with this. I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna leave it. This is a little bit of a cliffhanger here with the ketchup. I feel like it's a bit too dark. Yeah, and it's a bit too, I realize now, it's just too heavy. It's like blob. Feels like solid almost, too solid. And part of it is because of the shape. Okay, I'm getting a little bit too fussy right now. I'm gonna shave this area. Yeah, I think that's a little better. I'm gonna bring some salmon rose, super bright highlights. Maybe that's going to also, sometimes it happens with eyes, you know, the eyes are wet, the surface of the eye, the eyeball. So sometimes just bringing, depending on the reflection, bringing those speckles of white really create the idea of a wet surface on the eye. So I'm bringing the speckles of ketchup with the pink, a little better, a little better, a little better, a little better. The ketchup is much more difficult to paint than the fries. How about that? I would have never said that if I didn't paint it. Gosh. Yeah. This is another example. Stick with it. it's not good to force ourselves to do anything, because if we feel like it's not going in the right direction, then we should stop. But at the same time, there's something to be said about commitment and being steady in your application and execute it to the fullest before you make a judgment. So it's always sort of like a combination of both, you know, always be open to stop and reverse direction, but at the same time, don't give up too easily. Give that execution, that idea a try, work on it, take it to the final completion, whatever idea it is to execute, and then assess. We can't do one brushstroke and feel bad about it and then change and then feel insecure about it. It's so stressful. And I think that's one of the reasons why people find painting, some people find painting so stressful, because it projects their approach to doing things, you know, changing direction in the middle of it. All right, so I'm just gonna start winding down because I feel like this was an exhilarating process. There's so much more that I want to go back to, you know, the plate being one of the things that I want to do, the rings, giving a little bit much more of a frosty. I feel like now I'm more prepared to do variations, bringing some blue on the background. But I couldn't be more excited about the final result of the stage. Work in progress, always work in progress. I certainly passed beyond the tipping point. So I'm doing this now for myself. And I think that's something that we learned yesterday during the private session. I'm doing this now for myself. I already believe in my painting. I already feel confident about it. I already know that it achieved whatever idea of it that I had. Everything I'm adding right now, it's for me, doing it for myself. Oh, okay, you guys, and just reading the comments. Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. Oh, Julie, no way. Okay, we need to talk about all these things. The chat will be open. So this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna pause the recording right now. So we finish the session. Let's take a break in that order: stretch, hydrate, and then whatever, maybe eat. Lois is already doing it, so good. And then we give ourselves 10 minutes to do all this, plus take a photo of the stage, whichever stage you're at. If you just did one line, it's fantastic. And then upload it so we can have a conversation, exchange, and would love to see your work, your stage, by the way, your work in progress, and then any comments or notes that you felt through the experience, or that you learned that you want to share. All right, so we'll see you in 10 minutes. Let me see. Okay.